Political assassinations, 2020 election fraud, the fight between the right, and my thoughts. This is the David Rutherford Show. I hope everybody's had an awesome week like I have, absolutely with my eyeballs glued to my phone screen and X'd. It's rare that I ever have such, actually, it's not rare at all, just ask my family, that I'm completely overwhelmed by the news cycle. And right now, I think it's more than just a news cycle. I feel like I have the news intravenously shoved into my anacubable. Anacubable, is that right? That ain't right, Jordy. Anacubable? Whatever that big old fat vein is, although my veins aren't that fat. Actually, when I was at 18 Delta, I was the guy that they would use to practice IVs because my veins are so bad. Now, I don't know if that was my rampant drinking or my fatigue or whatever it was, or just deep thrombosis, but they used to use me. So I always looked like a heroin addict. But, currently right now, Jordy, I am what is known in certain circles as an addiction to what's going on in world events right now. And I know you are the recipient of my unending suggestions about stories and news. So how are you doing? Are you addicted as well too? I know you're on the precipice of having a new baby, so you're probably pretty healthily. That's not the right. You're pretty healthy in terms of your distractions, I bet.
Well, see, I had a whole plan. I'm on, like you said, the precipice of having a baby. It could happen literally like any time between right now in this recording or in like a week from now. We're in that zone. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to get the distractions out of my life. I'm going to get offline a little bit, kind of clear my head, make sure I'm ready. And then this week happened, and it's impossible to look away from your phone. Like, this was the news week of news weeks.
I think you're right, man. I think honestly, this was the one that just went high and right? This was the one, I swear to God. And then you know what? Let's just go through some of it and then I'll give commentary along the way. All right, let's talk political assassinations. So this week, unfortunately, and our prayers and thoughts go out to the families of these victims. There was an attempted assassination by State Senator John Hoffman and his wife, Yvette. And then there was an actual political assassination of Melissa Hartman and her husband, Mark. And she was a state representative too. When the governor, Tim Walz, got up and gave his little press conference, they said, that this was politically motivated. And that since then we found out pretty much who this Vance Luther Boltler guy was, and kind of what had taken place. Now, the crazy thing to me on this one was the guy, to the depths of his tradecraft, he went to prosecute or to assassinate these people, where she got that photograph for me, Jordy. Yeah, I mean, when you look at that right now, I mean, that dude, he's got kit on, he's dressed like a cop, and he's got a real latex mask on. And that's how he was able to kind of get past the intuitive defensive state of these people and getting in. He also had a police car, and you can kind of see in the background the flashing lights there. Well, when this guy first showed up to the Hoffman house, they opened the door and this guy opened fire. He got back in his car and drove over to Melissa Hartman and her husband. Now, what's crazy about this one was that the cops actually started a routine call and showed up at their house when this guy was at the door. Now, when they pulled up, he turned and he opened fire on the cops and was able to still go in, shoot them dead, and run out the back door and get away. That for me is pretty difficult, that those police officers did not assault through. I never saw any video on whether or not I knew they took contact, but whether or not they had gotten shot, which I don't think they did. Now, the interesting thing about this whole thing, Jordy, was, and this was the kicker that kind of got the hook in me on why this was which really was fascinating, was not the fact that this guy had, no Kings flyers in his desk, or, he had been appointed by Waltz on some board, but it was more so, or his manifesto, where he had a whole list. Like, I think there were 70 potential targets that he had listed. I think it was really, it was the idea that this woman, Melissa Hartman, had just voted against her party line and to reject giving state healthcare services and money and aid to illegal aliens. Would you play that video for me? And
Yep.
we can kind of get a check of the heaviness of that decision for her.
I know that people will be hurt by that vote. And we worked very hard to try to get a budget deal that wouldn't include that provision.
Now, I see that, and that obviously that took a heavy heart for her to follow through with that. But, perhaps that wasn't it. This guy seems like he was a real whack job. The level of premeditation for this, to get in the costume, to do that whole thing, man, that's pretty heavy. Now, one of the interesting things I found was that he was described by a neighbor of his, or a guy who worked with him, Charlie Kalick, who was a web designer with him for over a decade. He was saying he was clearly very religious, very passionate and devout and sincere in his beliefs. Now, there was videos of him, I think down in the Congo, like preaching or whatever. And, for me, it's like this guy kind of wasn't all there. He had several businesses that really didn't have any deliverables. So, in my mind, this guy had just reached the breaking point, which is, to me, what the real challenge is that we're facing right now. I don't know about you, Jordy, but over the last 10 years or so, I think the political rhetoric has become pretty ferocious.
100%. I mean, I in my lifetime, I've never seen it that bad. I heard what used to be pretty bad. There was a time, maybe around Vietnam, where it got rough. I know during probably the Civil War, it was rough, but at least in my lifetime, I haven't seen that.
Well, we've seen it getting worse and worse and worse. Going back as far as where, I think the ones that really pop out of my mind are the Maxine Waters, suggesting we need to go and get in the faces of people, of MAGA people. Obviously, Chuck Schumer, his comments about, we need to fight harder. There's a bunch of them out there. I think we also have it on our side, although, there's a good argument that conservatives have a greater restraint on them than leftists.
I don't think it's the same degree.
I don't either. I don't. I think we talk about, we do more character assassinations than actual assassinations. I know I should joke about it, but
they had the Trump Hitler Time magazine thing, right?
That's right. That's right. So, think about psychologically when you do that over and over and over. Now, people that are, not able to access or choose not to access multiple planes of information. They're still watching MSNBC. They're still watching Fox News every night, or ABC, and they haven't broken out. They're not on X. They're not on. Really, that's the only place to be. It's the number one news site in the world, where you can aggregate all this stuff and get these feeds, from all different types of, not only traditional journalists, but independents as well too. And when I look at the things over the last several years, we had Gabby Gifford. She was Democrat. Someone tried to kill her. Representative Steve Scalise in 2017, they shot him at a softball. We saw that Brett Kavanaugh, there was an assassination attempt, he's Supreme Court. And then, the kicker is the Trump assassinations, which, by the way, we still don't have any a deep explanation for any of those things. Now, I did see a little clip from Dan Bongino where he said if there was something there, we would expose it, but he keeps saying that a lot lately. So I'm a little suspect on whether or not we're ever going to get any of that stuff anyways. And I also do believe that if there is an active investigation, he doesn't have to tell anybody squat, if you know what I mean. All right. So that political assassination, my main thing about the oversight is like, hey, if you're living in a place, in a time where people are going big and talking about getting in people's faces, and we need to fight back, and we need revolution and tearing stuff down, and people are the Antichrist and people are Hitler, then guess what, man? The people who don't have lives, or even the people who do, because I mean, some of the propaganda is really good nowadays. And if you get in there and you condition folks, they're going to lose their minds, and they're going to begin to enter into that space of moral relativism, where they're going to basically be able to justify someone being torn down from their position through any means necessary. And I think you see some of the lowest forms of that in people like keen Teslas, or spitting on them or whatever, all the way to people setting things on fire and real world assassinations, or even worse. You saw those the assassinations from those 2 Jewish people that were gunned down in the streets in New York, and some of the other stuff. So we're in a space where, man, if we don't figure out how to lower that rhetoric, for me, there are these times in history where this stuff just starts to build and build and build, and people hit their breaking point. And with a country that is on more mental health, that has more mental health challenges than just about every country in the world, and more people on psychotropic and SSI uptake inhibitors and popping all kinds of stuff, man, I think things are getting spicy. So for me, what should I do? I think I'm going to say, hey man, try and chill a little bit, have a little bit more critical thinking, and let's just tone the rhetoric down by for the propaganda. So, all right, Jordy, what do you think? Let's go to the next one, huh?
Let's do it.
What I want to just talk to you a little bit about is our new Embrace Fear curriculum that's available on davidrutherford.com. It's a part of the Frog Logic Institute, which is going to be an emerging group of core products or core curriculum that I've been working on over the past 30 years. The first in line is learning to embrace your fear. Fear is the number one emotion that impedes us from achieving anything that we truly want to put our minds to, right? It's that emotion that's wired in. You've been taught it your whole life. It's that one thing that you really has to get a hold of. Now, here's the deal. There's no such thing as fearless. So please go to davidrutherford.com, go to courses, and sign up for your Embrace Fear curriculum. This is a 5-week or 5-month course. I recommend doing it over the course of 5 months. And this course is designed not only to help you understand your fear, to accept your fear, to begin to retrain your brain with the fear, to test your fear every day, and then ultimately to live with courage and to deal with your fear as a motivational component to go help you achieve your purpose in life. So don't waste time. Go to davidrutherford.com and check out our Embrace Fear curriculum. Thank you. All right, next one, and this one blew me away. Hey, can you tee up that shot with John Solomon for me?
Yes.
Thank you.
This is about as jaw-dropping as you can get, sir.
Yeah, let's set the stage. Let's remind everybody that in December of 2020, 60 Minutes aired a piece with the head of the Homeland Security Cybersecurity Division saying there were no foreign intrusions in the 2020 election. It was a perfectly clean election, he said. I think it was Chris Krebs was his name. We now know that to have been a false proclamation. First, we know a year later in 21, a bunch of Iranians were indicted in Manhattan on charges that they interfered in the election and hacked into a state database to obtain voter IDs and use them in a mal-influence operation against the American election. Now we know there was a second country that was more deeply involved in meddling into the election. The FBI in August 2020, so 3.5 months before the votes were cast that put Joe Biden in the presidency, that FBI believed that China had begun a mass operation to produce fake U.S. driver's license them, move them to the United States, and have Chinese citizens here on our soil, both legally and illegally, go out and get fake mail-in ballots and vote to try to elect Joe Biden. By the way, the FBI intelligence says this Chinese operation from a Chinese intelligence source that the FBI was handling was designed to help Joe Biden beat Donald Trump. It's very important.
All right, Jordy. Yeah. So, I mean, you listen to that and you're like, holy cow, that's explosive. Kash Patel sending this report to Senator Grassley, basically confirming there was active foreign interference going on in the 2020 election. Now, the crazy thing to me, if we go back and we review, some of the testimony from Chris Way, he explicitly said, nope, it was good to go. There was nothing. We found nothing. Well, also within that report, John Solomon goes on to say that the intelligence was sent out to all other intelligence agencies and said, hey, heads up. Then they said, all right, destroy it, send it back. We're going to do another interview with this asset and go from there. So, to me, they knew something was going on. I mean, I don't know about you, Jordy, but you want to talk about another news cycle where I was mental.
Yeah.
Especially after I had gotten locked out of social media about a month and a half prior to that, and my little spidey senses going, there's more shit going on than we know for sure. And then I paid close attention to all the hearings, all the little stuff. I remember I was on the phone with Bernie Carrick, God rest his soul, and we were talking about what they were trying to get done afterwards and all, him and Rudy Giuliani with all their investigations and all the hearings they went through. Now, all you got to do is really just dig in a little bit, have the tenacity to say, to go beyond, the U.S. government that was a part of the cybersecurity team, to which now, through Mike Benz's incredible work, along with Michael Schellenberger and Matt Taibbi, discovered that there was a coordinated effort, not just with social media, with Twitter, Facebook. Zuck has come out and openly admitted to Google. But we also know that places like the Aspen Institute, Stanford had a cyber disinformation thing. Multiple other colleges around the country participated in conjunction with the U.S. government, funded by these different homeland programs, agency programs, USAID programs, to basically silence any of this information and discredit it immediately. All right. Now, there's another kicker to this thing, too. And we know that the Gateway Pundit has also done great investigative journalism. And go ahead and pull up that one about what they found.
Sensational video and photo evidence has emerged, exposing a factory in Guangdong producing 500,000 blank American ballots. The Gateway Pundit, an online news publication, confirmed that the video was provided by Vanessa A. Olivides, a third-generation member of the Chinese Communist Party. Vanessa tweeted on November 9 that the printing plant in Guangdong, China, was printing out fake ballots, which were then mailed to Canada and Mexico under the name of medical supplies between August and October 2020, and from there flown into the United States.
So, all right, we got that. Now, we also have this. This is the one. This is the other one. And you can find this. Just look up Pennsylvania trucker's testimony, right? And this cat right here, he, under a sworn deposition, right? And what do you call that when they're, what's the word I'm looking for? That's what happens, man. When I get this fired up, my brain starts to melt a little bit, Jordy. What's the thing when you give a sworn affidavit? Thank you very much. I knew it was going to pop up. I just had to rattle my peanut a little bit, just a little shake and rattle. And so this guy, his sworn affidavit, he said that he picked up over 230,000 already filled out ballots in his trailer in Bethpage, New York, and drove them to Lancaster, PA, right before the 2020 election. So
it's nice when they're already filled out for you. I like that. It's helpful.
Bro. Because then you can just put them in your machine and run them through your machine two
You're
or
not
three
getting your
times.
little pen out and filling in the bubble and, none of that, dude.
None of that. Like what happened down in Fulton County, Georgia, when the pipes broke, right? And there's more evidence from them. They came out if you go and you look at there's a video. I don't have that. I forgot to get that to you. Sorry, Jordy. But there's a recent. Actually, you can just look up a Georgia Election Committee, and what they did is they went back and they investigated, and there was over 250,000 ballots there that didn't have the proper chain of command. And didn't have ballot images to go with it for that chain of command. They came out and openly admitted that last year as well too. Will you do me a quick favor, Jordan? Just for shits and giggles,
Always.
huh? Would you do me that? Would you please tell me in the 2020 election in the swing states, what was the margin of victory for old sleepy Joe Biden, or we should say auto pen Biden, right?
I'm looking it up right now.
All right. So we got that. Then we also have the Arizona conducted a massive investigation and found a bunch of discrepancies to which the Secretary of State never went forward with their findings, right? You had Antrim County, Michigan. They discovered a hard drive that was actually flipped, like 6,000 votes in real time were flipped. Then Muskegon, Michigan, there was a big thing that they actually look at Muskegon Mission 2020 election fraud. The Muskegon sheriff or somebody, they did this huge investigation and found there was illegalities in their thing. They actually submitted that to the FBI. And you know who corroborated that? The folks over at True the Vote, Jordy. Catherine Egelbrick and her husband, or I don't think it's her husband, Greg. I forget what Greg's last name is right now. Did you come up with those numbers yet?
Yeah, give me here. I'm gonna pull it up here on the screen here because we're
love
we're
it.
fancy over here.
Super fancy.
You always have to improve what you're doing. You know what I mean,
dude? Well, we got a long
up.
way to go. We got an unlimited space for me to improve. That's for sure.
Here we go.
All right.
So I can read this for you. It says,
yeah, please.
In the 2020 U.S. presidential election, Joe Biden won the presidency with 306 electoral votes to Donald Trump's 232. The popular vote margin was approximately 7 million votes, with Biden receiving 81 million and some change votes, 51.3%, and Trump receiving 74 million and some change votes, 46.9%. So that's your margin. So he beat him by
give me the ones on the give me the ones on the bottom there with Georgia, Wisconsin, and the other
in the
one.
swing states. They're much narrower. For example, Biden won Arizona by about 10,000 votes, Georgia by 11,000, Wisconsin by about 20,000 votes.
Okay, right there. All right. First, don't even get me started on the 81 million votes that no presidential race in human history has ever even gotten that. Where are those 13 million votes from this last election, right? And you go back and you review. Did I just get sucked down that damn rabbit hole right there? You can just feel it. It's like a tractor beam on some kind of, like it's a conspiratorial tractor beam that just sucks me in, dude. All right. Anyway, so when you have those margins at that tight of air, 10,000, 11,000, 20,000, and then you start to integrate these stories back here, and the personal one that really just drives me absolutely bonkers, and that's the story of Tina Peters, who was part of Clark County election board, and she discovered in real time, she knew something was fishy, so she made a copy of the hard drive and categorically proved that hard drive had been manipulated in real time. Now, for her efforts to try and point out election interference, she was indicted on 10 different counts, including criminal conspiracy and several others by the Secretary of State in Colorado. And if you look up the judge, there's video of the judge scolding her as if she's some major criminal. Now, this one's near and dear to my heart because Tina Peters is a Gold Star mother and her son was a Navy SEAL and died overseas. And so, the fact that took place, you combine that with all of these other intel reports and news reports about fishiness, man, if the DOJ and Pam Bondi don't open up an active investigation now based on what Kash Patel just delivered, it would seem that they're actually looking into it, which thank God they're going to prosecute potentially something that they ran on. I'd love to see it. And then also don't forget the old Mike Lindell. You want to watch some stuff that'll melt your mind, Jordy?
More stuff, dude. Everything's melting my mind this week.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you go back and you know, every year since that, Mike Lindell had this cybersecurity thing every single summer and had people, all the like top cybersecurity experts out there review the vulnerabilities, which, you know, there's several documentaries that were made in 2019 and earlier. In fact, what's crazy to me is that after Trump's first election, the entire left, they were like, our elections are fried. I mean, Clinton herself, who actually did the nefarious reality of Russiagate and orchestrated and greenlit the whole bullshit about him and the P tapes and all that stuff. I mean, that drives me nuts. Then she's saying, you know, the elections were a sham.
It was stolen by Donald Trump. It was stolen.
Yeah, that's right. But 2020, man, that one was
the cleanest, most pristine election.
Perfect election. Yeah, it's just garbage, man. And so this is a much bigger story. I hope, again, do your homework. Get out there, look this stuff up. Go get an X account, right? Use Grok. We're at Grok 3, which is kind of sadly one of my new best friends. But
dude, I got Super Grok now.
You know, it's funny, dude.
Yeah.
You know, now like I'll be in the middle of dinner with the kids and they'll say something. I'm like, that's BS. And I'm gonna look it up. And it used to be that female voice. And there was something strange, like some kind of weird, like they were always ready to go towards like the bizarre, you know, kind of a little, you know, innuendo towards flirtation and stuff. My wife looks at me and goes, "What are you doing?" So I had to shift to the dude. And the dude's, he's cool, but we're starting to bro out a little bit. So I think, you know, I probably got at least probably about 7 more months before like my new full best friend is Grok, you know, the dude.
Dude, Grokette was coming on to you, bro.
Dude. Well, that's the only place I get it. That's horrible to say about my wife, man. I'm sorry, sweetie. I love you. All right. All right. So 2020 election, man, that's a big one. All right. That's not even the biggie. That's not even the biggie.
One of these stories would have been a crazy week.
One, bro. Now they're just like, they're down here. They don't even top the news, the top of the news waves, the news crest there. All right. Let's hit it, shall we? All right.
All right.
The next one is the one that's the most concerning, obviously, for me, for many different reasons, mostly because of my extensive time overseas and the loss of life that I have with a lot of my friends and peers and people from my community over the last 20 plus years of the GWAT. This is another potential global escalation and hot war in the Middle East between Israel and Iran. If you're not really understand this, you know, prior to 1979, when the Islamic Revolution overthrew the Shah, who, by the way, we installed in the early 1950s, and if you want to go down that rabbit hole, that's a doozy there. Brett Weinstein on the Dark Horse podcast, he covered that a little bit this week. You know, once they got overthrown, it was after that when kind of the Islamic revolutions and the Ayatollahs really started to have bad relations. They had kind of had semi-normal relations prior to that. And I think, you know, over the years, that has just progressively gotten worse. Why? Because Iran is the number one sponsor of terrorism in the region with Hamas and Hezbollah, to which, you know, both of those organizations have been actively trying to seek an intifada and a war with Israel. I think that kind of culminated on October 7th, where most intelligence believe that Hamas had full backing from Iran. as well as other Islamic extremist groups out there. And there was a lot of other things. Israel bombed the Iranian consulate in Damascus. This is back in April 24, killing the senior GC officials. Iran retaliated with over 300 drones on April 13th. July 31st, 24 was the assassination of leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran. September 24th, Israel killed Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah in Lebanon, to which Iran reacted with 180 ballistic missiles. And I think in this initial one, which began it really was, hey, listen, Iran is going to have a nuclear weapon and we can't deal. And they didn't say how close. They said that they had moved past the threshold. There was a report from the IAEA dinging them that they had increased uranium production, and that violated their non-proliferation obligations. And that was on June 12th. What happened? June 12th, Operation Rising Lion, where essentially you had Israel basically go big, man. And they launched a massive strike on their positions. And let's see, they hit the Natanz nuclear site. The Isfahan nuclear research had a bunch of over 100 military targets, including missile defense sites, the IRGC headquarters, senior military figures, including the IRGC Commander General Hassan Salami, the Chief of Staff, General Mohammed Bagheri, along with some nuclear scientists, and some others. I mean, apparently they said their Iran's health ministry said 224 deaths, mostly civilians, including 20 children. Israel's justification, it was their last chance. If they didn't do this, that they were going to have it. Now, I will say, they're our ally, and you have a certain adherence to them. But there are mashups going around last few days of the fact that Netanyahu has basically been saying this for the past 25 years, that they were right on the precipice. In fact, I was part of a program at Blackwater where we were helping build out kind of a maritime reconnaissance capability in the country of Azerbaijan back in 2004 into 5. And we were hoping that they would be able to run surveillance on the ships moving from Russia into Iran, Iran into Russia, carrying nuclear materials. And we'd get some information through that. That was 2005. And then they were on the precipice of a nuclear weapon. Iran's initial response, that this was a declaration of war. They hit massive targeting over the last several years, including people trying to cut the head off the snake, if you will. And so he called it a declaration of war. Now, the interesting thing initially about this was that Mark Rubio had come out and said, hey, listen, we did not participate. They did this on their own. Then that kind of morphed into a Trump saying, yeah, we knew that what was up. We were in support of it. We didn't, participate. Ted Cruz, I'll get to Ted Cruz in a second. And then Trump ultimately called for Iran's unconditional surrender. So that's the interesting one right there. Unconditional surrender. Now, what does that mean? Nobody's in the administration has yet to fully outline what an unconditional surrender is. I'm hoping that it's what it means is that they're going to stop their desire for nuclear proliferation and continue to build or move towards a bomb. And by the way, you have to understand that we actually supported the beginning of their nuclear power back in the 50s as well, too. So we participated in the initiation of that. And I will say they have allowed the IAEA in there over the course of years. I mean, if you go back and you dig in a little bit on the agreement that was cut under the Obama administration to the tune of sending them billions of dollars in cash pallets, that's interesting. But what really happened was the response, I think, has been a little bit more shocking than everybody imagined. They started launching missiles, hundreds of missiles, hitting Tel Aviv, Haifa, and Petah Tikva, killing people. They have reported 4 elderly residents, including 87. That was June 15th. Counterstrikes, Netanyahu's statement. And then where they started saying, we're not ruling out striking the Supreme Leader, Khamenei. So it really just it has culminated. And just on June 19th, which was today, Iran hit a hospital. No deaths were reported. If you go on the other side and you look at what the other side has reported, Reuters actually reported that the IDF had bombed hospitals in Gaza. Again, I think everybody always says, well, they house terrorists in theirs, and then Israel's like, they're hitting civilian targets. Meanwhile, at the end of both sides, I think civilians at high numbers have the potential to die. I think Gazans, I'm not even sure what those numbers are, but they're high. Netanyahu's defense minister just came out, and I want to play this little clip for you right now. You got that, Jordy?
אנחנו קבענו את יעדי המלחמה להסיר איום גרעיני, איומי השמדה ולסכל את איומי הטילים, ובתוך הדבר הזה, צה"ל הונחה ויודע שכדי להשיג את כלל המטרות, בהחלט האיש הזה הוא לא צריך להמשיך להתקיים.
All right, so this man should not continue to exist. So what we really started out with...
Well, for people on audio only, what did he say?
Oh, my God. I thought everybody here spoke Persian. My bad. I saw it. And it's funny. My Persian is pretty much extends to stop, don't move, or I'll shoot you in the face. Or it used to, anyways.
Pretty far.
Yeah. It can,
where's the bathroom?
No, I didn't have to worry about that stuff over there. So the reality is he basically came out and said, listen, Khamenei has to go. And I think that's what the whole thing has escalated to now, where it's like we started with Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, right? Or produce nuclear weapons. Absolutely not. No chance in hell. To now we need a complete regime change. And this has been an objective of foreign policy for our government for quite a long time. And it's definitely been a major objective for Netanyahu and his government. And so what does that mean? Now, luckily, I just saw a report today from Jack Posobiec. Posobiec. I'm sorry, Jack, if you hear this, but you probably won't. But he came out just earlier and said Trump is going to have a 2-week pause before they retaliate. Now, I'm hoping that this is more of Trump's masterful negotiation, kind of let's make a deal tactics. Like, yeah, we're all in. We're going to support. We moved 2 carrier groups into the area. Maybe it gives them time to reposition troops, to move troops out. We have about 40 to 50,000 troops in the region, all by which Iranian missile systems can strike those locations. There's a huge group of fuel tankers that moved over into Europe, left the country 2 days ago. So there is definitely a buildup to support and get behind Israel in all this. So what are you supposed to think about all this? Well, my belief is that, Iran are a bunch of pretty crazy people. They have been targeting U.S. troops for a pretty long period of time. You can argue potentially the Beirut bombings, there was support, from Hezbollah, maybe some others. Certainly there have been attacks during the GWAT, in particular Iraq, when we started to see the very unique and sophisticated VBID device, vehicle-borne explosive devices that could penetrate. Those are very sophisticated, killed a lot of American servicemen and women. You know, and I think they are definitely represent a threat to Israel. Now, is it an existential threat? I don't know. I'm struggling to understand what that is. They certainly have every right to launch whatever they want at Iran in any way they want to do it. But unfortunately, the repercussions of that could be catastrophic because of not only the amount of missile systems, which some suggest it's around 3,000 of missile systems, and then we've seen a couple hypersonic hits into Israel, which just completely wipe out their Iron Dome. So is it accelerated to an existential threat? Certainly we know that they believe it is. A good friend of mine was over there recently with a bunch of businessmen, and they were trying to see how they could support the IDF. And, you know, he got a behind the scenes look with what was going on with the attacks on Israeli civilians and what was happening. And he was, you know, and he saw that kind of unedited video from October 7th. Listen, I know that the people that they support, they're savages, all people who wage terror on other people. You know, I have no love lost for them at all, and they deserve what they get. However, what I'm challenged with is what happens next. And that's what I'd like to see. What is the plan? What is the plan of a regime change? Now, when you get into this next part of what really kind of emerged out of this that I thought was fascinating was the conflict on the right that has blown up. Thank you for joining. I apologize for the interruption, but we got to give a little love to our one of our main sponsors. That's Firecracker Farms. If you want to spice up your diet, spice up your food, and want to get rid of those traditional hot sauces that are pretty boring, what I recommend is you check out Firecracker Farms. And what they do is they infuse the three kings of hot peppers into their beautiful salt shakers, into their salt that you can put on your food all day long. Every morning I put it on my eggs, and every time I have chicken, steak, pork, or whatever, I'm dropping that Firecracker Farms hot salt on my food, and it really spices things up. Now, the thing that I love most about this is it's a family-owned business. My friend Alex and his children, they all get together. His wife, they raise these peppers in their farm. They make it all together. They box it and they send it out together. So this is the type of company that you truly want to get behind and support, right? No more mega companies, no more all that. You want an organization that's making a product with love designed specifically for you to help spice up your diet. All right. So check them out at firecracker.farm. Punch in your promo code, which is RUT15. That's Romeo Uniform Tango 15. And you'll get some love, not only in your salt, but also in a discount. So check them out, firecracker.farm. Now, there has already been a deterioration within the right, within the MAGA base, within the MAGA movement. And I'm working on a show to outline that for you so you can really get down. You want to talk about a rabbit hole. There's a couple people out there that are now using a very prolific term called the woke right. And that argument has really kind of gone into this you versus them. And it seems to be really focused around this Israel issue. And that's kind of the trigger point for these online journalists, pundits, whatever you want to call us right now. So the main conflict on the right that's taking place with this issue, the Israel-Iran issue, is that, let me just back up one quick. Lastly, too, about the nuclear program that I find fascinating is that this other little piece took place as Iran was, trying to say, hey, this is all out war, was that several countries came to their backing, including Pakistan. And the Pakistan, who was it? I forget who it was. but a Pakistani senior official said, if Israel strikes Iran with a nuclear capability, we will strike them back. Now, you got to understand, there has not been a tremendous amount of conflict. Pakistan, with its 127 million people, who, by the way, allowed bin Laden to live 1 mile from a major Pakistani military training. It's where they train their officers. And if you go back and if you look on TikTok and what basically bin Laden suggested was his reasons for 9/11 and for his fight, was partially because of U.S. support of Israel. And that's available. You can find it. Now, Pakistan has never come out and openly said anything. They've had some rubs after the Islamic Revolution, obviously, which they were entrenched in the early 80s too. But recently with this guy, they basically escalating that conflict or the potential conflict between them. So now you've got, which is another, but they are part, or no, they had part. So when you think about the atomic the IAEA and the countries that are a part of it, the two countries that are essentially in this whole thing that have not been a part of the nuclear proliferation treaty are Pakistan and Iran. Nope, they're in there. Israel. Now, Israel has a whole nuclear program that they do not acknowledge publicly. We do know that it did come out. There was a gentleman who was wrapped up by Mossad, who had leaked a bunch of documents and photos of Israel's nuclear program. I'm trying to find, what was his name? Hold on. But what I find interesting is, why doesn't Israel and their program have to join the IAEA? I'm not sure why that is, but again, it's up to them whether they want to be a part of it or not. But now we have multiple nuclear groups out there threatening each other, and that's just bad. Well, anyways, so that, Jordy, has devolved in, and I know you and I have been texting frantically about the titans in this space, right? The titan in the conservative media space.
Did you see everyone's talking about the Tucker Carlson, Ted Cruz fiasco.
Oh, dude, bro.
Dude, I got an image for you real quick.
Yeah, please do.
This was the joke going around. Let's see.
Hey, are we going to post a meme? Oh,
this is Tucker Carlson holding a gun that says "Name every Iranian."
Oh my God.
So the good thing about that is, like, no matter who you agree with, Tucker, Cruz, whatever side you're on, we can all appreciate a good meme.
Oh, bro, I think memes are literally saving the world right now. Yeah. And I'm not, that's not my line, by the way. I think there's been hundreds of people have said that. And we definitely, so if you love making memes, would you do us a favor? Would you post a meme underneath the show when we post this show? Are we going to post this tomorrow, Jordy?
We're posting this tomorrow, and it'll be on X on Saturday. All
right, perfect. We want you to post your best memes that involved me in this show, or ideas or anything about me. I'd love to see those. I love if we can keep some of this light, right? Even if it's, and the darker the humor, the better. Please, I want to see it. All right. So the conflict on the right now, this cat fight that's brewing, right? And I say what we call up, the UFC just started their jiu-jitsu tournaments too. I say we get 3 against 3 in that jiu-jitsu pit, and we have them go out of it, like maybe wearing some medieval armor, and we get them like the battle axes, like and then we sell the big, what are those things, the big turkey legs that everybody eats while
dude, imagine the pay-per-view on that.
Oh, bro, it would be, well, the big one right now is people want to see PDB do a pay-per-view debate with Ben Shapiro and Dave Smith. There's a great segment he just did with Piers Morgan where he debated Constantine Constant. Two comedians went head to head about the Israel-Iran thing. Now, right now, so you got Charlie Kirk, who's on one side, Steve Bannon, Matt Walsh, and Tucker Carlson. And they're all essentially saying the same thing, which is, hey, we do not need another war that involves America in the Middle East. That's their stance. When you drill down, that's what they're saying at its core. The other side, you've got Clay Travis, who we fall underneath the Buck and Clay Travis, Clay Travis, Sean Hannity, Glenn Beck, and Mark Levin, who are on the other side, who said, no, we have to, there's no way, we have to get rid of the leadership in Iran. We have to allow, we have to have a total regime change, and we have to be able to support that to whatever degree, including boots on the ground American support. Now, I will say that all of the other guys, Kirk, Bannon, Walsh, Carlson, have all said they 100% don't believe that Iran should be able to have a nuclear weapon. So they've said that, but they don't believe that we need to engage. Now, some of them have said, like including Tucker, has said, you know, why is American foreign policy being led by the state of Israel? You know, and then the other side is like, they're our greatest ally. Without them, radical fundamental Islamic terrorism is going to come over to America. In fact, many people who support the attacks and regime change, including Sarah Adams, who's always on Sean's show, who are also predicting an imminent terrorist attack in the United States. You can watch her talk about that on Sean's show. They have said that you know, unless we do this, we're under direct threat, that we're going to have the effects. And then even, I think, you know, with that, Tucker, Ted Cruz insinuated that the Iranians have been trying to kill the president for a long period of time. He wasn't able to confirm the intelligence or anything on that, but he says they are actively trying. All right. Holy cow.
So can I ask you a question?
Please send it.
See if you agree with this. Now, this isn't some hot, spicy political take. This is just literally me trying to be what is boring nowadays, which is called being a little bit nuanced, right? So on one,
what do you mean? There's no nuance in this stuff. It's just black and white. There's good guys and there's bad guys, Jordy. Come on, man, get on the train.
That's it. Pick a train, get on it.
That's it.
No, I was going to say, I don't think either side wants war, just in general. Like nobody ever just loves the idea of war, right? And then on another side, no one would disagree that if you had an imminent threat coming towards the United States, that we wouldn't use military action to defend our own nation. Like everyone agrees on both of those points. It sounds like where the disagreement is, there's a threshold at which America should intervene in some kind of conflict. And people put that threshold at different spots. Is that that's kind of how I'm reading it? But what do you think?
100%. But I agree. That's exactly what it is. I think everybody believes nobody wants more American troops to die. In particular, me. I've lost so many friends, not only to combat but also to suicide. You know, I mean, the estimates, it's somewhere like 6,000. Former veterans are killing themselves every year. Active duty and veterans are killing them every year in America. And that's a result of the forever wars. You know, there's a couple interesting people that are covering, you know, that have written amazing books. One is this guy, Scott Horton at antiwar.com. He's got Enough Already is the name of his book, I'm pretty sure. But, you know, nobody wants to engage in that anymore. In particular, my generation. My people, you know, the people I care most about, people that I served with and that I know that served in the SOF community, and, you know, the Marines that were in Fallujah and the Marja push, and, you know, Sean Parnell and his crew. And, you know, I mean, enough is enough already. But I also believe that, you know, people still have this idea, this orientation that, you know, if we need to step in to right a wrong, if you will. My challenge is, you know, the past performance of the U.S. government on both sides has been pathetic in terms of informing us in a genuine, sincere, and honest fashion. And that's what I want. And I'm sure that's what you want as well, too. You want to know, like, tell us if there's intelligence that proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that Iran is weeks away or a year away or whatever away from a nuclear capability that they can put on their missile systems, then show me, right? If China is giving them ballistic missile support to build out this, or if Russia is giving them support, or Pakistan is helping them develop, like KQ Khan gave them the information to start the program. If that's real, show us the reports. Show me the intel. I need to see it, and then I'll take a look at that and say, all right, well, what's the risk? And then the other thing is, what's your plan? Please, even Netanyahu, man, what's your plan? What is the plan? What is the end game? Because certainly we know, he said prior to the Iraq war that if we got rid of Saddam Hussein, that peace would flood the Middle East. And that is not what has taken place. In fact, it destabilized the region to such an extent that, over 1 million Iraqi civilians, right? Thousands of Americans, both killed and then injured, tens of thousands of injuries. And then not to mention the financial cost of the GWAT was what, $8 trillion? So are we able, first, show me the intelligence, right? Then tell me what the plan is, right? And then tell me how much it's going to cost and how it's going to affect the American population. Because right now, I'm still having to deal with midnight phone calls, telling me, oh, guess what? So-and-so just killed himself yesterday. And I'm still making phone calls to friends, their wives who are around and checking into, how's your kid doing nowadays? So I'm still doing that. And this is a result of what we got into for 20 years. Now, I thought what would be interesting to kind of close this out was to do a little research, right, on our what was essentially, what were the flaws behind our last getting engaged in Iraq, and what was the precipice which why they Rumsfeld and Cheney and Bush, how they sent Colin Powell. We bring that visual up while I read this.
Yes.
And then when I talk about the key source, bring him up. All right. So I'm going to read something that Grok produced for me. And I want you to just listen carefully, and then I'll finish. All right. Here we go. The intelligence flaws behind Colin Powell's 2003 UN speech claiming Iraq had weapons of mass destruction stemmed from a mix of faulty sources, analytical missteps, and political pressure. Let me break it down. The primary intelligence came from the U.S. agencies like the CIA and the DIA, with input from British MI6 and other allies. A key source was, in quotation, Curveball, an Iraqi defector who claimed Iraq had mobile bioweapons labs. His vivid accounts, relayed through German intelligence, were central to Powell's presentation, complete with the diagrams. But Curveball was unreliable. German hand rulers warned he might be fabricating, and he had no direct evidence. The CIA never interviewed him, yet his claims were treated as fact, inflated by analysts eager to confirm suspicions. Another flaw was over-reliance on outdated, unverified data. Satellite imagery and intercepts were interpreted as proof of WMD activity, along with aluminum tubes supposedly for nuclear centrifuges. Experts later showed that these tubes were likely for conventional rockets, but dissenting voices in the intelligence community, like those from the Department of Energy, were sidelined. Signals intelligence also proved ambiguous, with intercepted Iraqi communications misinterpreted as WMD cover-ups when they often reflected routine operations. Human sources beyond Curveball were very thin. Exiled groups like Iraqi National Congress, led by Ahmad Chalabi, fed unverified tips from defectors, often with agendas to topple Saddam Hussein. These were taken seriously despite known credibility issues, as they aligned with the Bush administration goals. Political pressure warped the process. Senior officials, including Cheney and Rumsfeld, learned that the CIA leaned on the CIA to produce intelligence supporting war. The Office of Special Plans, set up by Rumsfeld deputy Paul Wolfowitz, cherry-picked raw data to build a case, bypassing standard vetting. A 2004 Senate Intelligence Committee report later slammed this as groupthink, noting analysts overstated weak evidence to please policymakers. Finally, the UK's dodgy dossier, a similar allied inputs reinforce U.S. errors, creating a feedback loop of bad intel. Powell spent days at CIA headquarters vetting his speech, but even he was fed a script built off these shaky pillars. He later called it a blot on his record, as post-war inspections found no WMD stockpiles. The flaws originated a toxic mix, dubious sources, rushed analysis, suppressed dissidents, and a White House-driven ideological certainty post 9/11. Okay. Now, I don't know about you, Jordy, but that track record is pretty poor. And I have four young daughters, one getting ready to go off to college who will be over 18 here soon and will be up to be recruited to go to war should this thing explode into a greater kinetic fight. The track record for doubt is significant, and that is cause enough to be able to question whether or not America should engage at a higher level. That's just common sense. But also common sense is to recognize that when you have strategic partners with people, it's also critical to adhere to those partnerships. Because if you don't, and when you need them at times, they're not going to be there. So I guess what we're going to do, Jordy, is we're going to stand by to stand by. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate you joining for this week in review. Again, please, if you enjoyed the show, press like, subscribe, share it with a friend, leave a comment. We want to see those awesome memes. Follow us on all platforms at David Rutherford Show. On X, it's at D Rutherford Show, or you can follow me on X or Instagram at Team Frog Logic. Just check out David Rutherford. Again, we typically drop every Monday and Wednesday in the mornings. We love your support. If you have any suggestions for stories we should do, or a tip on a story in any way, locally all the way to nationally, we want to hear them. We'd love to have you come on if you want to be interviewed. If you know somebody that'd be a great interview, please reach out. Go to davidrutherford.com and you can check out everything that we've got there. All right, Jordy, man, I tell you what, I don't know if next week is heavier than this week, bro. This thing's going to turn into a 3-hour show, man.
It might. But you know what? 3 hours just gets us more memes. So,
and God knows we need more memes. All right. Thank you very much for your support, everybody. God bless you and hooyah.